Yeah. Wait, should we record this? Because I saw this on my feed and I was going to leave a comment and I saw your comment on it. And then I
Yeah.
didn't even end up leaving my comment.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay.
When you start your business, no one ever prepares you for what's in store. So finding someone else who just gets it is sometimes the thing that can keep you pushing towards those big vision board business goals.
We're turning our Zoom coffee chats into a weekly, unfiltered podcast. You always wanted to record them and repurpose them for content anyways. And that's on being a social media manager.
I'm Jessica Sheehy.
And I'm Madeline Daigan. And this is
hashtag
managed. I think it's perfect.
I like it. I like it. Okay, I think this is I know we kind of talked a little bit around like mindset with pricing, but I think this is just such an important thing across any business industry in general. But Vanessa, what are your tips for keeping a positive mindset in this industry?
I would say that the expectation that we place on ourselves I think it's really easy for us to start playing that comparison game. So when we start doing that, it really changes the expectations that we have as individuals on timelines that we perceive that we should be hitting. And so a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, that person scaled to 6 figures so quickly. Why am I not hitting that? Or like that person is doing so amazing. All you're seeing is their highlight reel, right? Like you're not seeing what's really going on behind closed doors. And some people share that, but they don't share everything. And I think it starts to trickle in our minds that like they're having success. They did it so quickly. Why am I not? Or like they're doing amazing with their business and I'm not. I can never level up or I can never charge this much because I don't qualify. And I think, and I know because I work with entrepreneurs all the time, that that's not the case. It's all about perception. So, whatever we want people to perceive is generally what they do. And most often, everyone that I talk to, no matter what stage they are in their business, whether they're hitting 6 figures or 7 figures or beyond, we don't all have it figured out in our business. And there's this element of winging it and in every stage. But I would say it's really not, I feel like that hopefully answers the question, but I feel like I'm deviating a little bit. But that's overall what I would say is just like don't compare because you're just seeing their highlight reel.
Yeah, absolutely. Even a couple hours ago, Maddie and I had we had a lunch break call and we were literally eating lunch and just yapping and we were talking about different things and one of the things that popped up was that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And easier said than to believe it. Absolutely. I mean, I think we're constantly reminding each other like, you get those things that pop up on your feed or you get an email in your inbox or maybe you just have a bad hour, a bad afternoon, a bad day in business. It all happens. It's not a bad business. It's not a bad life by any means, but it's just getting past it. And so to have that constant reminder that, we really don't need to compare because we don't know. I think a lot of times too, if I ever feel any comparison or imposter syndrome, I like to take a step back and think, what specifically am I fixating on? Like if I see someone and I don't know, maybe they launched a new service and they tell me that they sold it out within hours of, posting or emails or whatever that is. I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, why is that really triggering me really bad?
Mhm.
Have I launched something? Has it flopped? And then, just kind of getting to like the bottom of peeling back the layers of why is that comparison thoughts popping back up? Because that's really how I think you can get out of that funk and back into that positive mindset and getting back into business. So I love that you brought that up because I think that's really does answer the question well.
Okay.
I think so. One thing, I think this is going to be a perfect segue into our next question too, because something I feel I found myself comparing myself to in the very beginning of like my entrepreneur journey was like not being on every platform. Like I would see like the Jenna Kutchers where I'd be like, oh my gosh, she's killing it on every single platform or what it felt like every single platform. So what advice for business owners who feel pressured to be everywhere online, like what advice would you give them?
Okay, please don't hate me for this advice.
No.
I'm here for the hot take or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
you want.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so the reason why I say that is because it goes with what we do, right? Like as a social media manager, I think there's so much pressure to always feel like you have to be everywhere, and we've had conversations about this, but you get so inundated by like the thought of the vanity metrics, and so it really plays with your mindset in saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm not doing it." It can be very draining, social
Mhm.
media, and just being not even just social media, but just being in the online space. It can be so draining, and it can do a lot to your mental, feeling like you're not hitting, quote unquote, the numbers that you think you're supposed to be hitting, even though you're doing well. And I think for a lot of people, that mentality is really what keeps them um, in the mindset of like, okay, well, I see this person on TikTok and Facebook, and they have a newsletter, and they have this. Like most of the time, they probably have teams, or they
Mhm.
have this ecosystem that is set up that feeds into one another, which that's how it should be, right? Like the goal is to try to. I literally had this conversation with my aunt this morning because she's like, I feel like you're doing so much. And I was like, no, it's just this ecosystem I have. And like that means I'm doing my job if it appears like I'm doing a lot. But I would say that like your social media is a huge component of your business, but it's not the only component. And feeling like pay attention to where your energy is, right? So like if
Mhm.
you feel super drained, hire out for that, right? Like hire if you have the capacity, hire out. Or focus on something that is really a big return on your investment. That could be email marketing, that could be a podcast, that could be, content, whatever it is. Um, but like I feel like when people kind of get into that trap of feeling like they need to be in all places at once, that's not the reality. Just be where you can be consistent. And if that's on social media and you love being consistent on social media, great, build an audience there. If you can't, build somewhere else until you can hire for the things that you don't love. So, I guess maybe
Mhm.
that'd be my
That's good. Yeah.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah. That was really good advice because I feel like oftentimes we're, you know, different people in the industry are just so quick to push for more, do more, create more, hustle more. It's like, well,
right.
there's so many times, like Vanessa, obviously you're a mom, like, a wife, like you have so many other obligations that
Yes.
you have in addition to the clients that you work with and the, content you create and the brand that you're running as well. So it's, yeah, I think that's just way more sustainable and it can help prevent, we talk about burnout a lot on the podcast. And I think as marketers, creatives,
Yeah.
it's cyclical. We're always going to go through it, but if we can prevent it, then even better.
Yeah.
I
Well, and oh, sorry.
No, no, you're okay. I was just gonna add too, and I also love that you brought up the energy too, where it's just like we're big, just energy people here too, where it's like focus on like where you are, where your energy is going, but also
Mm.
the energy suck because again, like we talk about like the mental health and wellness too a lot. So I love that you brought that up as well.
Yeah, well, it's probably because my whole brand and what I do is you don't have to sacrifice what's significant or sacred to you to build something that's of significance. And I feel like we were made to not just have businesses to feel like it has to just be this constant drain of everything. Like I think a lot of times we want that freedom that comes with, have you ever heard, it's like this story where this guy was like, you should I'm not even going to get into it, but essentially, he was like out there on a boat fishing, and some guy came to him and was like, you should have a business. And he was like, you'll make more money so that you can have more time. And he's like, but why? I'm already here doing what I want to do. And I think essentially, like us as business owners, we got into business to have more time and the financial freedom, but then it ends up being the
Mhm.
reverse, and we don't have time for the things that we love. And I'm just a huge advocate of do what you love, but I also think that you can do that and build something that's significant without having to sacrifice those things. And what it really stems for is like your energy levels and what's important to you. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay, I do have one question that we didn't prepare prior to this, but you mentioned this really, really early on in the show, and I just want to bring it up because I feel like it's something that is on the top of everyone's mind as a marketer or just business owner in general. And I think it kind of plays into like, where like our energy can go and flow. But you mentioned that you're loving Claude at the moment. So I'd
Mhm.
love to know, Vanessa, if you don't mind sharing with us, how are you using Claude?
Mm, mhm,
So, one of the biggest things I think that people are nervous about when it comes to AI is obviously the mindset of like, oh, that's going to replace somebody. So,
Hmm.
this is the number one thing I would say is you can feed whatever to Claude, and it's amazing in the mentality that it will, give you something back, but you have to know exactly the information that it's giving you, and if it is not only relevant but work. So like I could spit something into Claude and it's good on paper, but I'm like, no, I know that's not what I want. I know that's not what my people need. And so if you've ever used AI, you know and know how to use it, you have to refine it and refine it and refine
mhm,
it. And that takes you having an expertise in something to know that that's not right. Because you could spit something out and it could give it to you on paper, but that doesn't mean it's good or relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think for myself, it's the mentality of like, I know what I want to say, but you can say it so much better than I can. So, like, can you just help me with this? And there are some things that, like, because I'll go to it with like not even just business related stuff. It's like, what can I do here at my house? Like, how can you help me word this a
mhm,
little bit better? I need to decline something to somebody. Can you help me say this a little bit nicer
mhm.
or more put together? Or like, I mean, it's a great tool, but it's not a replacement for your mindset and your knowledge. So I think that like a lot of people they feel bad for using it or like they feel like, oh, I shouldn't. And if you ask Claude, because I asked it one time, I'm like, am I an imposter by using it to say this? And it's
I
like,
love
no,
that.
because you genuinely, if you it's like Google. So, like, if you
Yeah,
were to
yeah.
feed something into Google and it gave you an answer back, it's just researching it, but you're just doing it faster is the
Mhm,
mentality behind Claude. So it's not a replacement for any of those things. And if you look at people that are incredible and successful in business, they have ghostwriters, they have content writers, they have
mhm,
people
Mhm.
preparing the president has somebody prepare his own speeches for him. So it's like you have to know how to do it in a way that's like obviously full of integrity, but I think it's a smart use of your time. I'm not going to spend a ton
yeah.
of time doing one element of my business that AI can do faster for me. And we've been using AI for a long time. As a photographer, Photoshop is AI. So like there's so many more AI things that like people don't realize we've been using for a long time. So, yeah.
Wait, okay, I have a follow-up question,
Yeah.
and it is related to AI because geeking out again. How many times can I say that? So, what is one way that you've used AI, or maybe it's like a little hack or like a quick tip you would give somebody who's going through a rebrand? And why I say this is because so with our rebrand, something that I geek out because like the second I discovered this or like even thought to put it into AI, I was like, oh, but it goes back to your having expertise. So creating a color palette, right?
Mhm.
So I had created it, but I was just curious. I plugged in all the number or like all the hex codes into Chat GPT and was like, how would you tweak this?
Mhm.
And it, of course, came back with some suggestions. And some suggestions I was like, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But some I was like, clearly you are AI because I was like, that is an awful, like, like the designer eye where you're just like,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Yeah, those
No,
don't go together. Mhm.
no, right. So what would you say, like, like, how have you used it in branding or like anything fun like that you've used it?
Okay, so my favorite life-saving thing that like I just am so grateful for. So my husband is a business owner and I redesigned his website.
Okay.
Um and he wants this like advanced project planner. So he's in landscaping and he wanted a way for his clients to be able to or anybody that goes to the site to be able to go on it and select certain elements of what they want as like an estimation. They're like building their dream thing, but to kind of get like a little bit of an idea of what that would cost. So it's like a qualifier as well. And I was like, how the heck do I make these things talk to each other and do this? And like Claude came in and it was like, here's coding. Let me code this to your website. And I was like, oh, thank
Mm.
you. I mean, it took so many
Yeah.
iterations of it. And you
Yeah.
still have to know certain elements of like where to put in photos and pricing and change, descriptions and whatnot. But like, it's things like that, like, I don't want to
Mhm.
spend thousands, like, props to people who can code, but like,
Mhm.
if I can go in and have something do something like that for me to help enhance his website, like I'm 100% going to do. And I think it's things like that like, can you go in and it's never going to replace the expertise. Like, yes, Claude will spit out like a MBA or PhD level brand and marketing strategy if you want it to, but you have to know there's human elements of it that like it just can't replace. And I think that like for a lot of people, if they were to go in, it'd be like simple things like that. Like, oh, I mean, I guess coding's not a simple thing, but like,
Yeah.
that's what it's helped for me. So it's like little hacks like that um, I think are just more element, like it'll help you strategize. Like, does this even make sense?
Mhm.
Um, and it's people are using it. So I think it would be kind of silly to think that people have, I mean, there's some people that have no idea how to use it, but it's just a great tool to have. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you brought that up. It's so fascinating to me. This is what I love about AI. I love that you said AI has been around for a long time because it has. I feel like we
Mhm.
have to keep saying that. It's like
yes,
it's not new from OpenAI or Claude or any of these
right.
tools. Like it's been here for a little bit, but it's really fascinating to me how different people use AI because so my husband helps with like all the financials and he has a financial background. I'm the creative. I can't do any of that. Don't tell me any of the numbers, but he knows I'm a creative, and so he has been using AI to build out like reports and charts and visuals of basically he probably told AI, "Hey, help my wife understand this data from her business because she can't read anything on a
Mhm.
spreadsheet or
Yeah.
like on a graph or something." But it's really cool to see that it can do so much.
Hmm.
And again, I think to reiterate, just because I think it goes without saying, for people who are listening, who are hesitant and or maybe scared, like, will AI replace me? Like, it will never replace that human element.
I think one big thing to remember is that you get to a level in leadership or within your business where like you don't want to do the things. So you're always going to hire out people to do the things for you. I think AI is amazing for people who are like, I can't afford this. I need this help. Or, I just need another mindset. Like the social media management won't go away because people don't want to manage their social. They don't, they could type into Claude and say, hey, design a brand for me, but they don't want to execute on it. So there's a level of that element as well that people just don't have the time for it and they will hire out people for other things. It's just a great tool to me, I mean, I have a team, but like there are some elements that I'm like, I just need another person to strategize this with. So
Yes, yes.
it's
Until
not a
we
person.
all clone ourselves, we are
Yeah.
using AI as like
Yes.
one little
Yes.
mini
That's the
clone.
closest clone to me probably right now would be Claude. So
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a great segue into one of our last questions before we get into like a really fun segments before we close out the show. But Vanessa, if you had to share one piece of advice to another social media manager or marketer, what would it be?
oh, that's a tough one. One piece of advice. I would say just keep going. I know it's really cliche, but like keep going in the sense of there's going to be so many times where like you get into your own head and you think, okay, I'm not good enough to be charging those prices, or I'm not good enough in my design. Like as a creative, everything we do is so subjective. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm not good enough for that or that design. You're your biggest competition, right? Like that's what you should be. And so every design that you make or every post you put out, if it doesn't at some level make you be like, oh, like when you go and look back on it, then you're not doing it right. Like everything you should be doing or you're doing should be getting you to that next level. And every post that you create the next time should be better than the last one. So like just keep going in that sense because you're getting better. Everything that you're doing is a little bit of practice. And nobody has it all figured out at any stage. So
So
that'd
true.
be my advice.
I needed that advice last week when I was like tearing apart every single thing I did. I was like, nope, not gonna, nope.
Yeah.
But
And then
that's
she
why we have a
submits it.
team.
She's like, Jessica, tell me if you hate everything. And I'm like, no notes. Like, what do you mean? This is the best. One of
Yeah.
the things that I told her, like, when I saw the brand for Social Savvy, because I told her I'm way too attached. It's my almost 7-year-old baby. I'm too attached to it. So I'm like, I'm giving you the reins. I know that you've got
No
it.
pressure.
And
No
right, no
pressure.
pressure by any means. And I get it back and I'm like, I'm excited to release it. It'll be released once this episode is live. But I'm like, I have never felt so connected to a brand
Oh,
before. Like, it's
what a
just,
compliment.
I know.
I'm like,
She told me that earlier and I was just like, okay. I feel
The best thing you can hear as a designer.
yeah, no,
That's
I
the goal.
absolutely. Okay, so each week we like to highlight what's on our feed. So this could be something that went viral or a campaign that you saved. What's one campaign or viral post or just what's on your feed?
Oh my gosh. So I've had 3 posts go like viral on TikTok. And they're the most random things. Like they don't have anything to do with my brand. Like one is literally just a trending at the time it was a trending audio or whatever it was, or a trending thing where you do like the filter. And it changed
Hmm.
me from like a blurry vision of me to like a cartoon character. And it had like 1.3 million views. And I was like, why? Of all the things I'm doing, why is that the thing that went viral? And then the other 2 are like me cleaning my house. So like they're the most random things. And that's the thing that I try to get out of like some of my clients is like, you honestly don't know what's going to stick. I could have great, amazing content, and the content that I love and am passionate about gets like 3 likes. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then the stuff that you just never know. Like there is some level of like, this is another tangent, and so I won't go on it, but like there is some level of predictability to the algorithm, but at the same time, like it's just sometimes it can just do what it wants to do, and you never know what people are gonna love. So that's what's on my viral post. On my like feed is just what I love doing, like just sharing my business and helping other people. So I think that was the question. I feel like I go on tangents and that's why I forget what you guys asked me. So
You're no.
Perfect.
Welcome to that is what this podcast is.
Yeah,
It's
that's
little
us as hosts,
TED Talks, it's
Yeah,
little
okay,
like little soapbox. Yeah, you're good.
No, that was good. And it's always so interesting to know, like, again, social media is so interesting. Like you said, that was one of those was trending at the time. Like one of us could go create it. It probably would get 200 views. It would put us in the 200 view jail.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. It's always fun to hear like what goes viral, because it, to a degree, but also not to a degree, it's never really like an exact formula or science, or we would all be creating viral content every single day.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
don't. So we always love to find new sources of inspiration, and we like to close our show out with our weekly report segment. So I'm going to run through the questions for, going through the acronym of report. But Vanessa, what are you currently reading?
I'm reading Lean Marketing right now. Real fascinating stuff.
That's a great book. Great recommendation. What's one thing that you're currently eating?
I have sushi rolls on repeat like every day for lunch. So I get like in that, I don't remember. There's like a term for it, like a fixation. Yeah.
Hyperfixation.
Fixation
Yep.
on a thing. And I just,
Mm-hmm.
simple, easy, good. So
Yeah. Hey, it helps I do the same thing. Helps with meal planning or grocery shopping. If I know I'm going to eat the same thing for a
yeah.
period of time. What are you currently playing? This could be a podcast, a playlist, a song, a show, a movie.
I have the most random playlist. It's like all genres essentially, but like on repeat for me right now is Toby Keith. So his songs are just like, before then it was Morgan Wallen. So like I love country music, but like that was, I switched over because I was like, I can't listen to Morgan Wallen anymore. I need something else. So
Yeah. Yeah. What are you currently obsessing over?
oh my gosh. I don't know. Obsessing over. I
This
feel like
one's
I should know this one.
very broad. I
Yes.
get it.
I really would love to find a new show to watch. So last night I watched on Netflix, there's this show called Twister or Twisters, not the movie. It's like this tornado one of what happened in Joplin. And that was really good. So I'm probably obsessing over like documentaries or like something new. I'm a nonfiction person and like self-development, so I'm really boring in that sense. But
I love that. What is one thing that you're recommending?
oh, I need to be like my own. I need to take my own advice, but like getting out and doing stuff like throughout the day. I'm really, really bad on sitting in the seat and staying here for like 20 hours a day, it feels like. So now that it's starting to get nice out, just finding little pockets where I can get outside and be a human instead of in front of the computer all day. So
Yes, yes. Okay, and finally, what are you treating yourself to lately?
sleep a little bit more.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yes, I need to treat myself to some more sleep. It feels like I've been blaming daylight savings because of that, but we're a couple weeks out, so I feel like I need a new excuse. It's probably my screen time, let's be real.
Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for chatting with us today. It has been such a fun episode. We talked about so many good things. I feel like I took away so many good nuggets, and I also only use ChatGPT, but I've heard about Claude, but I'm like I'm gonna go check
Worth
out
it.
because
The
Vanessa.
only downside is he doesn't remember, so you have to remind him all the time. But
Oh.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Good last little last little tip. But before we close out the show, Vanessa, where can our listeners find you online?
So I'm everywhere at Mitera Branding. So if you search that, you'll find me.
Perfect. Awesome. And we'll drop in Vanessa's links in the show notes of this episode so you can click in on your favorite podcast player. You can go to #manage.com to find the show notes. But thank you again, Vanessa, for being on the show and sharing with all of us. It was so good.
Thank you. I'm honored. So
Oh, thank you. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of #Manage. We'll be back next week with another episode. Listen up, social media managers, freelancers, and online business bosses. If you're still out here trying to Google your way to success, it's time for an upgrade. The #Manage Collective is a free Facebook group where we ditch the fluff and get real about what actually works in social media management, community, coaching, and resources. Because your ideal clients don't just magically find you. We're a group of 20,000 plus social media managers, and it's absolutely free to join us. So, what are you waiting on? Join now at #manage.com/group. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, I think we've officially become internet besties. You can always call into the #hotline and say hello, leave a review, or ask your burning questions.
Make sure you follow, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening from. Subscribe to the Social Club newsletter for our weekly email and shoot us a DM over at #manage on Instagram, letting us know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode.